show you today how to make my delicious cheese bread. And this recipe is very simple. I've done it for many years. You're gonna love it. So I'm gonna show you how to get started. You are gonna need, the ingredients you're gonna need are milk. You're gonna need 3/4 of a cup of milk. You're gonna need 2 tablespoons of Crisco or vegetable shortening. And you're also going to need 1 egg, and I've whipped it up a little bit here. You're gonna need, of course, cheddar cheese, so a cup of cheddar cheese. You're also gonna need 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt and 1 tablespoon of sugar. So the first thing you wanna do is you wanna heat up your milk on the stove or on the microwave with the sugar and the shortening inside. And what you're looking for is you wanna make it warm, you don't wanna make it hot, because then you're not going to be able, your yeast is not going to activate, because we're gonna be using yeast. So once your milk is warm, once you put your finger in it or you touch it, it's warm, but it doesn't scald you or it doesn't burn you, then you're ready to go. So what I've done is I have put that milk in this bowl right here, and I want you to see what it looks like. I've added the yeast, and it's 1 packet of the instant dry yeast, okay? 1 packet. And so they sell them as individual packets. If you happen to buy it in bulk like I do, or in a container, in a jar, you can use about 2 teaspoons or a little bit more than 2 teaspoons of the yeast. So that's what it's supposed to look like. Once it has activated, that's what you want to see, okay? So the next step is going to be, you're going to start adding the flour. This is all-purpose flour, and you're going to use anywhere between 3 and 4 cups. It depends, okay? You're going to, depending on how the weather is, or how your dough starts progressing. Once you need it, then you'll see. So I'm going to start out by putting 1 cup of flour, okay? Now, you're going to use your dough hook, and I'm doing it in my stand mixer. If you don't have a stand mixer, you can still do it. You can just do it by hand. It's just going to take longer, because when the kneading process starts, you're going to have to do it by hand. It's going to take about 15 minutes for you to get the dough where you want it to be. So you can do it that way. That's how I started doing it many years ago. So I put 1 cup of the flour, and you're just going to let it run a little bit. Once you see that it starts mixing, you're going to add another cup. You don't have to turn off the mixer, but it's a good idea. If you're not too sure and you don't want the flour to go all over you. So right now we have 2 cups already in here, okay? And it's starting to come together. So I want you to see how it looks when it starts coming together. Okay, as you can see, of course, it looks like it's going to come together, but of course it's not there yet. So that's fine. At this point, you want to put your mixer on a lower setting. You want to add the 1 egg, and you're going to add your 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. Just leave the mixer running, and you're also going to add your cheese. Okay, so I'm going to stop the mixer and put the cheese in. I know it looks like a mess, but you'll see it's going to come together. This is the sharp cheddar cheese that we're using today. Now, this is my preference. This is how the original recipe calls for the sharp cheddar cheese. But by all means, if you want to use another type of cheese like Parmesan or Asiago, just some examples, you're welcome to use them. I'm sure it's going to be delicious, but this is the one that I like to make. So I want you to see how it looks like now. Remember, we have 2 cups of flour in here. We've already added the rest of our ingredients. So as you can see, it's coming together, okay? It's becoming a dough. And the key to this is you don't want to over flour your bread. You don't want to add too much flour. You really don't, because then it'll just become too dense and too heavy. Okay, so we have 2 cups in there so far. I'm going to add another 1/2 cup. Put the mixer on low every time you're adding the flour. or at least not too high, because you don't want it to go all over you, okay? And as you can see, I'm adding, I have a half a cup, but I didn't add it all at once. I'm adding it little by little, just because I want to see how much the dough is actually going to need. And so this is really what you want to do. You want to watch it. You're kind of almost babysitting this dough, but you know, it's going to take a few minutes. And what you're looking for at this point is you're looking for the dough to no longer stick to the sides of the bowl. Okay? So if you still see some dough that's sticking on the sides of the bowl as this is turning, or in the bottom of the bowl, then you know you have to add a little bit of flour at a time. So just add a little bit at a time, okay? Okay. And this kneading process that I'm doing right now is gonna take about 5 or 6 minutes. So I want you to see now what it actually looks like. This is what you really want to see, okay? And as you can see, it's no longer sticking to the sides of my bowl. It's not sticking anywhere. It's just a nice ball of dough. It's not done yet, okay? At this point, you're going to bring up the speed to medium. And you're going to have to let this go for about 5 or 6 minutes on this, or even less, with this stand mixer at this speed, okay? You don't want to, if you don't want to, at this point, you want to feel what the dough actually feels like and knead it by hand, you can do that. You're just going to take it out at this point, put it on your counter with a little bit of flour, and you're going to knead it. And I'm going to show you how the kneading process works. You're going to use this part of your hand, okay? Because once this is done, kneading in here, I always like to give it a couple of, maybe a minute of kneading with the hand, just to make sure that everything is good. So we're going to go ahead and let that keep going. And you want to have this ready, okay? You want to have a bowl, medium size like this, or even smaller, something where when you put the dough in here, it's going to give it enough room to grow up to like double the size of what your actual dough that you put in here, or that you started with, looks like. So that's really important. So you want to have that handy. Now I want to tell you this bread recipe, you can do different things with it, okay? You can divide this dough into like maybe 12 pieces once after it's grown once, and make individual rolls, and just put them in a sheet pan like this, or even in a smaller sheet pan where they're actually touching each other once you put them, and then make, you know, bread rolls, okay? About 12 of them, medium size. Another thing you can do is you can use a loaf pan, which is a regular, it's like 9 by 5 bread loaf pan, and you can put it in there and let it grow in there, or let it get its second rise, and bake it in that loaf. And you will just have a nice loaf of bread, and you can just slice it, okay? What I like, the original recipe, and what I like to do is something interesting. It's a braid. It's actually, it looks like a braid, okay? So what's going to happen is, once I let this dough rest, after we take it out of here, for about an hour, then we'll be able to do that. We'll be able to shape it into the loaves, or shape it into the actual braid that I want to show you, okay? So at this point, we're going to go ahead and take this dough out of here. I'm going to stop it. It's been kneading for a few minutes. Let me show you what it looks like. See, so it's still sticky, but I was able to take it off. And this is what it looks like, okay? So as you can see, look at the size. And this is what I'm talking about when I say you want to knead your dough when you put it on the counter, okay? You want to just push it forward and bring it to yourself, okay? Push it away, bring it back. Push it away, bring it back. So I'm using this. And as you can see, it's a little tacky, it's a little sticky, but it's not sticking to the counter, and it's not sticking to my hand. So that's how you know that things are working properly, okay? So you want to do this for a little bit. just to make sure it's 100% developed. And you're doing this just to develop the gluten, and that's what we did with the mixer as well. Okay, to develop the gluten so that it gets a nice rise. Okay, and you can see that it looks like it's a small dough, but it's gonna grow. This is gonna make 1 loaf. If you wanted to make 2 loaves, then you can double the recipe. Okay, so once you've done this, okay, you're gonna press it. I want you to see this. You're gonna press your finger in, and if that happens, you see it, that means it's ready. It's been kneaded properly. You're gonna put it in this bowl. You wanna make sure that it coats, the oil coats all of it. Cover it with a damp towel. And just put it away. You put it somewhere where it's warm in your kitchen. Just leave it to rest. Once the dough is in size, this is what it's going to look like. So about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. Okay? And so you're going to just dump it on your counter. So you can see, you're going to dump it on the counter. And what you can do at this time is you can shape it into a loaf, just like I told you, put it in a loaf pan, let it rise again, okay? And then just bake it in the oven once it rises twice at 375. 375 for about 20, 25 minutes, okay? I find that once I put it in this loaf pan, in this sheet pan, it takes about 20 minutes once I make the braid. So at this point, this is what you're gonna do. If you wanna make the braid, you're going to cut this loaf into 3 equal pieces, okay? And cut this dough. So here we go. Here's 1, here's 2, here's 3. Okay. So you kind of want to do this to it. Just want, some long strips. You want them all 3 to be, this looks about 8 inches. That's fine, because it's going to stretch out once you start working with it. Okay. And they don't have to be like perfect, just as long as you can shape it. If you see that one of them is a little bit skinnier and the other's like this one, then I would use this one for the middle one, okay? So let me show you what you're gonna do. And you don't have to do this if you don't want to. It's just kind of fun and it looks pretty when you finish baking it. Okay. So you're gonna just make believe you're braiding someone's hair or braiding your own hair. Okay, I'm gonna do those. Bring this one over. Okay. Again, doesn't have to be perfect. Do not judge me. I'm not a good braider, but just to give it a different look, okay, to the bread. An interesting look. And then you're just gonna tuck the bottom. You're gonna stretch it out. Once you have it at this stage, you can pretty much play with it and just do the best you can to make it look cute. And this is gonna rise again, so it'll come together and it'll look really pretty. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in my sheet pan. You can actually do this in your sheet pan too. There we go. So that's what it's gonna look like, okay? There's your braid. You're gonna cover this again, okay? Because this has to rise again. And I'm gonna show you, once this has risen for about another hour, maybe 45 minutes, depending how hot your kitchen is,